I was the life of the party. I brightened up every room that I walked into, making everybody happy. That was my only goal. Because if you're happy, I'm happy. I don't like people to be upset. Middle school's when I started feeling bad about myself, you know. That's when I realized I was the fat, weird kid. Really. I mean, and that's what I was. I mean, I look back at pictures, I was the fat little weird kid, and I didn't like it. And I didn't know how to do it. So I started off, my first pill I ever took was a diet pill. That's where it all started.
I grew up in a really normal, loving home. In our house, we had to be involved in at least 2 school activities. It was a rule, couldn't get out of it. I always took that to the extreme. I was in probably every sport, basketball, volleyball, cheerleading. I was on drug-free club, student council. I was voted most spirited, and I was voted prom queen. At that time, I didn't know anything about heroin. I thought it was just in the movies or, you know, in New York City or not in Northern Kentucky.
I'd say I probably started in '05. By '07, I had graduated all the way up to Oxycontin 80 milligrams, and I was doing 4 to 6 of them a day, depending on finances. I was crushing them up and snorting them. And Oxycontin and heroin to me are extremely similar in effect, but the one main difference is that the best way I've ever been able to describe it is when I do an Oxycontin or a pill, it gives me a sense of, it gives me a falsehood of being royalty. When you do heroin and you inject it with a needle, it gave me a falsehood of being a king.
It was every good feeling that you could ever possibly imagine happening all at once. Inside your body and inside your mind. It's just an explosion of wonderfulness. That's really what it was. And I searched and searched for that high for 7 years, and I could never get that same high ever again. That's what you do, is you chase that that first high. You chase it until you're done.
You know, one of the most distressing things I read on social media is people that have this attitude. It's like, well, you did it to yourself. I'm sorry you did this. It's like, you know, one of the things I'll say in a town hall meeting is raise your hand if you've never done anything stupid. You know, it doesn't mean you deserve to die for it.
I tell people that heroin is not the person that you know. It is just a shell of a person. They are no longer thinking common sense, not even probably cognitively. It is probably just a primitive part of the brain that is responding to this, I need this fed all the time.
Simply telling someone, you want to stop, don't you? Why don't you just stop? Becomes increasingly difficult. And it amazes me that even 5% of people are able to just will themselves out of this. I mean, it's amazingly difficult. And the further into it you get, the more brain dysfunction you get.
I've never met a heroin addict that says, when I grew up, I want to be a heroin addict. No one ever said that. No one has ever said that I'm happy to be on heroin. No one's ever said that I can't wait to do heroin again. I've always heard, I never thought it would happen to me. I don't want to be on this. I don't want to live anymore, and I don't want to live like this.
You know, he never wanted us to know. And that was the thing that every overdose where he was able to talk afterwards, that he would say, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad. I know I'm a big disappointment to you. And we would always say to him, you know, no, you're not. We just want you to be happy. But what we didn't realize was Kasey had lost the ability to be happy, because the heroin had robbed him, as Steven Tyler once said, you know, drugs rape you and rob you. And they do, and they did. They took Kasey's brain first, then they took the spirit of who he was, and then they took his life. He was all about anything that had wheels and a motor. You know, what better, I mean, how many VW Combi, 67 VW Combi buses do you see on the road? None, except for Kasey's bus. That's the only one I've ever seen. So it immediately attracts attention just by the simple fact that it's such a unique vehicle rolling down the road. You know, that alone captures the attention. And then once they see the bus, then their eyes are taken to the signs on the bus, which is about the naloxone and about Kasey's Law. So it's just perfect. It's the perfect tool. It's the perfect vehicle, if you will, no pun intended, to carry the message. I said, when Kasey died, an advocate was born, and that was me. And so I said I was a mom on a mission. I was like a loose cannon shooting off in all directions, hoping that I would hit something. I don't think there's anything more powerful than a mom on a mission.
Nicholas passed away in August 2013, and in June 2014 we had our first 5K, and it was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable to see the people there, and every single person. When they walk up to me and they say, oh, there's almost always a spark or a light in their eye. We've been to your 5K, we're going to get wins for 5K. So there must be something there that's even bigger than we realize. It's not about the running, it's not about the food, it's not about the t-shirts. It's a lot deeper than that. I think seeing the photos of loved ones that have passed away makes it even more real, because I think a lot of folks have a vision in their mind what a heroin addict or an alcoholic on the streets look like. It's going to be the worst of the worst. It's not going to be a beautiful blue-eyed blonde cheerleader. It's not going to be a curly blonde-haired guy. I think that helps people that may be there and have not had a loved one that have been affected by this disease. When they see those folks up there, they can see their nephew or their cousin or their spouse. They can see what people really, really look like that are suffering from this addiction.
You know, there's collateral damage. You know, the innocence of people that never had the disease of addiction that are going to be hurt by it. The healthcare workers, the rescue workers that have to deal with it, that inadvertently get caught. You know, the people that are in contact with the children, you know, your HIV-infected mothers that aren't on treatment because they don't know they got it, that are giving birth to babies. You know, you're Hep C infected and you have a baby. You know, how many of these babies that are born at the hospital right now are born to drug-addicted moms? Most of them aren't going to get Hep C because perinatal transmission to Hep C is very low. Not the case with HIV. 30% of them are going to be born with HIV if they're not on medicine when mom's carrying them. Okay? So we got the innocence to worry about. We got the economic cost. You know what it costs to treat an HIV patient? About $25,000 a year. Let's get 2,000 of those, see what it does to your Medicaid budget. 25,000 times 2,000 is 50 million. So let's add that to the Medicaid budget every year. Suddenly a needle exchange clinic doesn't sound like such a big deal.
Because opiate addiction is different, and it needs to be treated differently. And that's what we know now. I mean, the CDC is saying that the best practice for treating opiate addiction is medication plus other forms of therapy.
I think under the right circumstances, medically assisted rehabilitation can work. That's not what worked for me.
Abstinence-based treatment has been proven to be ineffective. It doesn't work. You're throwing money in a hole. I mean, it works for some. The treatment programs that are available, they need to be modified to fit into a paradigm that works.
In my truthful, honest, wholehearted opinion, the only way that long-term sobriety, recovery, whatever you want to call it's going to work is if you completely figure out why you got there in the first place. You answer that question, Then you find somebody who you can ask help. You ask them for help wholeheartedly and you let them help you. And then from there, you move forward in your life with a little bit of faith, a little bit of a program, and a whole hell of a lot of support from people who are close by you. I mean, I don't want to say that without God in AA, because I don't know if that really goes well with the masses anymore, but without God in AA, I wouldn't be sitting right here. That's what worked for me. That's my story.
For people that aren't in addiction, that have this picture of addicts being these horrible people, I want them to know that we're not horrible. We do horrible things when we're out there, but we're not lost causes, not all of us. There's hope for an addict. And, you know, just, I think it's just letting them know that it doesn't mean they're bad people. I think a lot of people think that. And I wasn't a bad person, I just did bad things.